How you doing? Did you get a hot dog outside? No, I've got to get one. Good afternoon, my name is Howard Hall, and I'm really happy to be doing this program today. I've been a member of Alpine for, we count it in decades now, because I'm not smart enough to go volunteer.
6 or 7 decades?
6 or 7 decades, yeah. But this program is called the 11 Essentials. Has anybody ever heard of the 10 Essentials? Okay. You may know what maybe 6 or 7 or 8 of them are. If someone ever asks me what they are, I always have to stop. You can usually get to 8, and then I have to stop and think. But the reason I don't have to worry about it is because I know I've got them in my pack. I always have them with me. If we're on a search mission, a rescue mission, if I go out for a 2-hour hike with my dog and the cameras. The reason is the 10 essentials are the items that may help save your life if something goes wrong. Everybody thinks nothing's going to happen to me, it's always going to happen to somebody else, right? So if it doesn't happen to me, and it happens to somebody else, it's going to happen to you, right? But if it doesn't happen to you, it's going to happen to who? Maybe him? So you are somebody else's somebody else.
Want to see if they can get all 10? I'll write them on the board.
We'll do that. No. We'll do that.
He's got them all.
He's got them all? Okay. So, the idea is that if you get into a predicament, you get lost, you get injured, you get slammed by the weather, you've got items that will get you through the night. And of the 10 essentials, I've got like 6 of them right in here. So you don't necessarily need a big day pack. They're small, they're lightweight. Let me give you a story. We've had a couple of examples of rescues over the years, searches, where they were both a party of 2. One was at St. Mary's Glacier, one was at Mount Goliath in the Mount Evans Wilderness, where a party of 2, in one case it was a brother just on leave from basic training in the military, and a younger brother, and a dog. And the other one 2 years ago was a father and son from Minnesota. What occurred was they got slammed by a storm that they didn't see coming in the springtime, and they were not prepared. And in both those cases, if they had had probably just 2 or 3 of the 10 essentials, they might have survived. But in both cases, there was a fatality. The 2 on Mount Evans, the McManus's, they both died. We didn't find them for 3 months. The 2 at St. Mary's Glacier, the younger brother and the dog had died. The older brother we found as he was wandering out in pretty critical condition. If they had had 2 or 3 of the 10 essentials, they could have gotten through their predicament and probably survived to the next day and made their way out. So, what are those 10 essentials? There are things that are going to keep you warm, keep you nourished, keep you comfortable, keep you alive. Now we'll see if I can do all 10 right off the top of my head. Like I said, most of them are right here. They're small little things. Now, when I show these to you, the important thing to know too is, if you carry these but have never played with them or used them, you're more than likely going to be using them in an emergency or at least an urgent situation. You may be a little panicky, you might not be thinking clearly. The weather could be miserable. It could be 30, 40, 50 mile an hour wind. You could be getting slammed in the spring by cold, wet snow. The important thing is to play with these things ahead of time. You can go out when the weather is bad and play with them. So, what have we got? I'm going to just dump them out here. And actually, I have more than 10 in here. I have 2 extras. There they are. Now, first thing. Navigation. Map and compass. I also have a whistle on there. By the way, if you don't have a whistle, you can go down to the Reco booth right out here in front of our shed and grab a whistle. Whistles are great for signaling. We are trained to listen for whistles, day or night. The sound travels a lot farther, and you can blow a whistle a lot longer than you can yell for help. It's called the thunder whistle. It's the whistle that the NBA referees use. You can buy it in any sporting goods store. Map and compass. You notice I didn't say GPS or phone. Low tech, if you know how to use it, and there was map and compass a little bit earlier today, low tech batteries don't fail, they don't get cold, they don't die, you don't lose cell service. We have had a number of instances where someone is navigating by, guess what? Cell phone. And guess what? Batteries go dead. Or if it gets cold. I'm not saying don't use them, but I'm saying carry a map and compass with you so that you can confirm location. I personally don't like navigating with one of these because it's like, I mean, that map is really small. And by the time you zoom out to get an idea of where you are, everything is tiny. So I still like to use actual topographic maps. I can find where I am and I can see off a mile or two in the distance to help orient myself. And McVan Maps, who is downstairs, came up all the way from Colorado Springs. They're one of the very few retail map stores still in existence because everybody downloads maps. So, number one, map and compass. Number two, a light, a flashlight, either a headlamp, any kind of light. Make sure it's a reasonable quality because it's going to get banged up in your pack. This is a mini mag light. Here's a trick. I have 2 batteries in it that I switch out every year. One of the batteries is turned around so that I can't turn it on accidentally. And it, you know, it'll wear down in a few hours in your pack, and it's you know.
Should have told us that trick in our training.
Yeah,
But
it becomes a paperweight. Map and compass. Flashlight.
Yo, I've got that. But I have one day.
Especially in the wintertime that we're coming up to, sunscreen and eye protection. It's very easy to get sunburned. These are my prescription sunglasses. And speaking of prescriptions, whenever I go out on Alpine, late afternoon, night, or if I go out of town, or for the day, I have with me the prescriptions I need to take at night, my regular nightly dosage of stuff in my back and my foot and all that. Because if I get benighted overnight, benighted being caught out, if my car were to break down in Vail and I have to spend the night while they're getting fixed, I want to have my meds with me. So when I go out on a hike, I've got my dose for that night only. That's almost a way of guaranteeing you don't need it. So, sunscreen and eye protection, sunglasses. What else have we got here? Any kind of a pocket knife or Leatherman, multi-tool, for fixing stuff. Or, I'm trying to remember, I think this one has a saw blade on it, for cutting small limbs. Especially in wintertime when you're maybe a little more equipment dependent, you have to fix a binding on a snowshoe or a ski. Some people also will keep these in their pack and they'll wrap it up with duct tape. It's not one of the 10 essentials, but duct tape, you can fix anything with it, right? So, a small tool. Most everybody carries multi-tools. I actually prefer a Swiss Army knife, but I don't have it with me because I lost it. It's somewhere in my house. So, the multi-tool. Spare food. I swap these out frequently, although I've been known to have them in my pack for as long as 3 years. Not too hard. Basically, you want calories. You want calories to fuel your system, especially at night. If you're getting cold, you're going to be burning a lot of calories to keep warm. So food for caloric intake. And these things are just the easiest things in the world. These have, I'm almost afraid to look, they're 140 calories a piece, 35 calories from fat, which is good in a survival situation. 12 grams of sugar, which if you're pre-diabetic like me, these are not good. But in a survival situation, having all the sugar on board is really helpful. What else have I got here? Aha! Who knows what this is?
No, it's a heat
Emergency blanket. Yes.
Yeah.
Emergency blanket. You know, it doesn't have to be a space blanket. This is a garbage bag that you can buy in the orchards around Halloween. If you use a garbage bag as a survival shelter, just try and get one of the big ones, like the big giant leaf bags you can get this time of year, because they're tall. You know, a regular garbage bag, they're only about this big, but the big leaf bags, they're long. This is actually one from the highway department that is probably this tall, and I've used it as a bivouac set. But this is a space blanket. The one thing about the space blanket is, once you open this bag, right, and you use it, you never can get it back in the pouch again. It is physically impossible to fold the thing up and get it back in the pouch. Nice and small. I have no idea how long I've had this thing. Made in the United Kingdom, expendable. It's 36 by 84 inches, enough to wrap you up. We had a search for a father and young teenage daughter, like 13 years old, this summer up near Herman Gulch, which is exit 218 at I-70. It's the last exit before you get up to Bakerville. They actually had a number of the 10 essentials with them, and when we interviewed them, they actually walked out the next morning. Once they realized they were lost, they hunkered down. They said having a space blanket, especially after the sun went down and the wind kicked up a little bit, was really helpful. They were actually comfortable between the two. And they might have had a big one, you know, a big space tarp, which is twice as big. They said they were actually comfortable. Admittedly, it was summertime, but it probably at that altitude got down into the 50s. And if the wind kicks up when it's 50 degrees, more people become hypothermic in Colorado in the summertime than they do in the winter.
Wow.
Because in the winter you're thinking cold and you're prepared for it, right? In the summertime, if you get slightly damp from rain or sweat and the wind kicks up, you can get hypothermic very quickly. So, shelter. I mentioned extra food, extra water. You notice for both of those I said extra. That is food and water that ought to be in your pack when you get back to your car. Or at least when in sight of your car. Which means that you should have other food and water for your trip, whether it's a half-day hike or a full-day hike or whatever. This is stuff you're not going to use unless it's an emergency. You need that food for caloric intake. You need water to keep hydrated, especially in Colorado, especially in the wintertime. You don't realize how easily you can become dehydrated in the winter when you're, when you're expelling air, CO2, and you see your breath. That's moisture. You can get easily dehydrated. I think more easily in the winter than in the summer. Again, because you don't think about it, and you don't necessarily get thirsty because you're not hot, but you can blow off a lot of moisture. Now, this is big, and I wouldn't expect any of you to carry it. This is my first aid kit. But it's big because I used to be an EMT. You can buy a first aid kit. I checked with the vendors. None of them have any today, but I would say maybe that big.
Or you can build your own.
Or you can build your own, and this is a build your own. This is a bag from REI, but everything that's in it, you can buy at the drugstore. And you want to be able to, obviously you're not going to fix a broken leg. But if you've got even a severe laceration, you can do some bandaging to the point where you can still get out on your own. So, the first aid kit, and this is another one of those things that open that thing up, see what's in it, learn how to use it. I would say too, take a first aid class. It doesn't have to be a wilderness first responder, but take a first aid class, say from the Colorado Mountain Club. They have a mountain-oriented first aid. Colorado Mountain Club is against the far side of the pavement out there. Go talk to them about their classes. Clothing for the conditions. Jacket with an integral hood. Summer or winter. We know if you've lived here more than one season, 1 year, you know how the afternoon thunderstorms come rolling through, right? Not so much now. We need to talk to Chris Tomer, the meteorologist, about that. But when I moved here in Denver, you could set your watch by the 4 p.m. thunderstorm for years and years and years. But now the weather's changing. Summer or winter. Hat full of dog fur. I've heard this, and I probably need to check with a physiologist or one of the physicians that's on the team. But I've heard that when your body, when you're losing heat because you're, say, mildly hypothermic, when you get into that moderate hypothermic stage where the body's going into self-preservation and it shunts blood away from your extremities, It's keeping your core and then eventually your head, the brain, warm. So, in the wintertime, when you're hot and you see either the shadows or you can see heat rising off your head, all that heat is escaping through your head. One of the best ways in the world to save that heat is a hat. Put on a hat, it'll keep your feet warm. Cute. So, extra clothing. And I include a hat with that. And I say for the weather. You know, it's going to be different here than it would be in Washington State in the Pacific Northwest, in the Cascades, where it's wet in the winter and sloppy. Here you don't have to worry about that so much, unless you yourself get overheated and your clothing gets wet. Has anybody been counting? Have you been counting? No? Let's see, have I got all 8, all 10? Let's see. First aid kit, map and compass, pocket knife or multi-tool. Yep, here's what we didn't cover. And to me, if I'm ever in a survival situation, this is my #1 priority. Where'd it go? Because I know I got a bunch of them. 1, 2, 3. I carry 4 different kinds of fire starter. Have you got some chips there? Do you have a chip left? Okay, I'm going to show you some. So I carry Windproof Matches in a waterproof container. This is old school. This is 30 years old. I carry a big lighter. I carry now a magnesium striker. You scrape with the blade on your multi-tool. You get magnesium shavings. And then you strike it and it starts a fire. Magnesium burns white hot. And I also carry, they're just called fire starter sticks. You can buy these at any camping store. They have some sort of petroleum-based, probably toxic, solvent in here that you light it and it sustains a flame. You can put this on where you're going to build your fire. Start with this, put your small twigs on top of that and so on, and build it up to where you've got a reasonable size fire. And this will burn for several minutes. If you don't have those, but you have any sort of snack food, this is your emergency food, right?
Oh my gosh.
These have enough oil in them
That's where they taste good.
that they will sustain a flame. And the ones that I've seen that really work the best are Fritos. They're so full of oil. Look at that, fire starter.
Wow.
Yeah, and if they're the nacho flavors, they smell the
You should
best.
have covered magnesium first.
Yeah,
And then help it.
that is another little fire starter. So I carry 4 different kinds of fire starter. Let's see, what else I've covered. We're getting done. So we covered first aid kit, map and compass. We covered a flashlight or headlamp, and now you can get headlamps really inexpensively. The nice thing about headlamp, of course, is when you're trying to find your way out at dusk with your map and compass, your hands are free. A multi-tool or pocket knife, fire starter, food and water that is not to be consumed on your hike. That's why maybe you get something that you kind of don't like, and you're less likely to eat it. I remember a few years ago, I had some stuff in my pack that I look at it and say, I really have to be in a survival situation to eat those things. But now when the Salvation Army comes to feed us on long searches, I restock my survival supplies with stuff off the Salvation Army truck, who also doesn't charge for their services. I have a few other things in my survival kit that just for me, because of my search and rescue background. I have some, I have a signal mirror, and I have some smoke, and I have a flare. But those are not things that are going to keep you alive. These are all items that will keep you alive. So, I have blasted through here because we started late because the helicopter came in. And I went through 10 items. I said, didn't I, that there were 11, right? Anybody have any idea? I know you know. You going to take one of these and pass it on? These were created by the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office After the search for the McManus family 2 years ago, that search affected them so strongly that they came up with this idea to print these safety cards. And I'm also going to give you some little pocket cards as well. The 11th essential is a companion. Think about it. If you are, to paraphrase or to quote a longtime member of the team that's gone now, in a world of hurt, you want someone with you. You want someone with you that can help you navigate, figure out where you are, that maybe can bandage an injured forearm, someone that can help you start a fire, someone that you can huddle with under your 2 space blankets to keep warm. 2 heads are better than 1, right? I learned having a companion from a 5th grader at Bergen Elementary in Evergreen many, many years ago. There's that TV show, You Have to Be Smarter Than a 5th Grader. Well, it was brilliant when I asked this group of kids what's the most important of the 10 essentials, because they're really all equally important. This kid said a companion. Brilliant. A companion can not only help keep you out of trouble, but if you get in some sort of trouble, that's going to be what you want with you to help put all these other tools to use. You know, you can get a fire started while he's gathering firewood. You can gather firewood while maybe he's building a shelter from the wind. It's just that simple. Anybody have any questions? We blasted right through that, but there's
The shelter thing you just were mentioning, the blanket and the garbage bag, are those pretty much the options that you recommend, or is there?
Yeah, because they're lightweight, you know? Now, you can buy the space blanket in the form of a sack. It's called a bivouac sack, where you step into it and pull it up. You just want something to keep the wind and the rain
And you
away.
said orange because of emergency, you could be spotted.
Right, we always recommend bright colors so that we can see you from a distance.
Okay.
And that's why I have to carry that orange one. Yes,
I have a bivy sack about that big.
Yeah.
Put it away.
A bivy sack?
Yeah.
Yeah, bivouac sack, yeah.
I had a baby sack when I was lost in the mountain, you know, I stayed there, but after 2 hours, it got wet.
Bivy, bivouac.
Okay.
Were you sweating?
Yeah,
Yeah. You have
and I
to,
was feeling more cold with it.
right, because if you get damp, you're going to,
No, I was not wet, but after putting that, it started sweating.
well, yeah, so you're sweating, and now the moisture carries the heat away. So the key is to remain dry at the same time, which is why you'll always hear all of us talk about not wearing cotton clothes, because when cotton gets wet, you can't dry it out. So you wear synthetics, you wear nylon, you wear polypro, something that's hydrophobic. But yes, if you get damp, you're going to lose heat even faster because of convection. Evaporative cooling, right. There's 4 kinds of cooling, evaporative, convection. It's just like when you're in the water in the summer swimming. You get cold faster.
2 other ones I just want to add in. Definitely spare socks.
Yeah.
Everybody here knows how easy it is to get your feet wet. You step in a puddle, you step in a bog, a lake, river, anything. You heard the McQueen story earlier?
Yeah.
That is key. If you get stuck out overnight with wet feet,
It's
you
miserable.
don't want to know about it. Always bring spare socks. Winter, spare gloves. You can drop a glove easy.
Yes.
Your hands will freeze very quickly.
We all carry at least 1 pair of spare socks
Yep.
year round.
And the one last thing is water's heavy, right? If you're going out for a big day out in the mountains, you don't want to be carrying 4 liters of water. Filtration tablets,
Right.
Or purification tablets, a filter. You can get like a life straw, it's a small little device you can drink right out of a river or lake.
Yes,
Just a few things to keep your pack lighter.
excellent, yes.
I want to thank Howard for a
Thanks,
great
Howard.
presentation. Thank you.
I'm really glad to see everybody here today.